Hello and welcome to another episode of Magicians Only. Are you a magician? Should you be listening to this? It's all right. I'm going to ask that every single episode, but you know the answer. You're very, very welcome. As always, this episode is sponsored by Magic on the Go, which is the encyclopedia of magic in your pocket. You want to learn magic. You want to be a better magician. You want to be able to amaze anywhere at any time. Magic on the Go is the thing for you. Got a very special two-parter for you this week. It'll be one part this week and one part next week. That's how two-parters work. There's a lot of changes happening in the entertainment business. We know that. And there's a lot of people out there who want to have their own venue. But the question is, how do you even start? How do you approach the idea of it? How do you set it up? How do you make it work? Well, there's one man who's been doing it for years, and he finally agreed to come onto this podcast and talk with me. And actually, he revealed a lot of secrets, and I'm super, super grateful. So let's start this episode with BAM, Bill Abbott Magic. We're going to dive right into this. I have a very special guest. You know, I love to talk to professional magicians, people who walk the walk and talk the talk. And this guy talks and walks the talk on the walk. So he does everything. He sells magic. He performs magic. And he does what you want to do. He has his own bloody venue. And he's done it a number of times. And I want to talk to him about kind of the secrets of that. As long as we don't go in his neighborhood, I think he'll be all right sharing some of those. We just stay away. But would you please welcome a man who also, by the way, has his own magic business called BAM, Bill Abbott Magic, and it's all professional stuff. There's no pipe dreams. Everything that he sells, he has performed, and you can perform, and is performed by professional magicians. Comes with the routines to get you started. Obviously, you're going to make it your own, right? But Bill gets you going, because quite often it's cranking that engine. There's a reference for the kids of today. Cranking the engine like a chitty bang bang to get things going is sometimes the hardest part. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Bill Abbott. Bill, I'll put in a sound effect there of, people booing and shit. So how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic. Thank you.
It's good to have you here. It's really interesting because Bill, you and I were kind of crossing paths as I was coming to Toronto and you were leaving, and going to Florida, and you were getting the hell out as I was getting the hell in. And you had that kind of like, so long, suckers.
Good luck.
Good luck, motherfucker.
Enjoy.
Look on your face. And you've really made a go of it. And it's been really brilliant to watch how hard you worked at finding a venue. I think a few times. We'll talk about that, and making it work and promoting it and getting the show and all that stuff. So what differs in this podcast is, rather than just like, tell me about your career and what do you like about magic? What I really want to do is to get into, I want the people who aren't magicians to listen to this and understand how fucking crazy this business is. Any stories that you want to pop in, any memories of just the insanity that we go through as magicians, is very, very welcome, as well as kind of like, the real deal. I want to help magicians kind of find other places to perform rather than those that are just offering crap money. So, and we all know where they are. So I recently saw a friend of mine who's a magician post that the next 3 gigs he had coming up, and each one of them, we all know, pays shit.
No,
so, I think that the time for magicians to be respected and paid properly is now. So, and I'm going to help them find it. So anyway,
I think that's why the magic business is so big, because it's hard to make a living wage from what people, when I mean people, I'm talking about people in the world of magic who create magic venues or that host them or that direct them. They don't pay a living wage. I mean, what I had to do, we had our second boy, who just celebrated his birthday yesterday.
Congrats. That's awesome.
21 years old, if you can believe that.
Damn.
Yeah, our youngest. Anyways, he was born, and it was at that moment that I realized I just done a lecture at the local magic shop and sold the lecture notes.
Right.
And I
made like $200, right? I mean, it's like,
yeah, maybe. And then I realized, well, this is something I can supplement the shows with, which are infrequent, which are live performing is what it is. So it's feast or famine. But I just realized, like, after having a second kid, like, I need to figure out how to make this money keep coming on a regular basis.
Yes.
Rather than just, sporadically. So that's literally how I got into selling magic to magicians. It was not because it wasn't my lifelong dream. It was just something that was a practical source of income that,
But you do it differently to other people in that what you're selling is professional experience. You sell, as opposed to some places that just sell tricks with crap instructions. Like, you do something which I respect, which is you have your routines are professional routines. You could do it out of the box with the routine provided, and it will be fully entertaining professional routine. And as I said earlier, it's a starting point for people. But what was it that when you started your magic, when you looked at that, where you said, like, no, I need to do this, because no one else is doing that. No one else is selling, and at a higher price point as well. We had a conversation about that. I remember when you were like, these routines are hundreds of dollars, but look what you get, right? So what made you kind of veer in that direction?
It was kind of by default, but also I kind of taught what I knew. When I did my first lecture, the lecture I just referenced, it was at the Browsers Den and Magic in Toronto. Did it 2002 maybe, somewhere around there. It was that 2003 maybe. So I did that lecture, and Jeff Pinsky, who owns the Browsers Den, approached me and said, "Would you do a lecture at the shop here?" And I said, "Well, I really don't do anything special or different in terms of methodology or anything like that." At that time, I was doing a Mullica card and wallet and a card stab and a sponge ball routine and a very, mid, I guess the kids would say, a magic at the time. But I had my own spin on all of it, which we all do.
Yeah.
And he was really interested. He said, "That's what I want you to share. I want you to share what you actually do at that time I was doing 2 or 3 restaurants every week. I want you to share that material." So that's what I did. And it was successful in the sense that I think a lot of magicians were surprised at somebody who was actually sharing this material, as opposed to usually they go to the Magic Club meeting or the lecture, and it's some guy trying to sell them something that is a fooling, thing that really is impractical or really does not, but it's fool's magicians at some level. That's what
you were selling the real stuff, the stuff that works in the real world. And that's what that's kind of, with this Magic on the Go, which now is I started in 2017. I'm almost at 1,000 videos.
Wow. That's fantastic.
It's insane. It's an albatross, but I love the albatross. I feed it well and it shits on me on a regular basis. This has been, I've in some ways been more creative because of it, because I research and I find the stuff that I think needs to be rescued. And then in filming it, I find that's a shortcut to creativity. I end up coming up with my own versions, and then it always ends up in my act. So in some selfish ways, it's been a wonderful testing ground for new material, but I've always kind of felt I needed to film it, and you learn more when you film it, right? I mean, you really learn the structure of a trick when you have to teach it. And
you learn more than the person you're actually teaching by teaching trick. That's what I learned by teaching magic. I learned more about why I do what I do, how I do what I do, and what I'm teaching myself. You're telling yourself why this trick is fantastic, or why you love doing it this way, or why you probably shouldn't do it this way. You're learning, and that's what I love about teaching magic. And you're probably a fan. I recently got the Bert Allerton book, the newer, the newest publication. I'm a big fan of Reimagining. I'm a big fan of guys who died.
Yeah.
We didn't get to really find out. They could have shared so many amazing things, but didn't. And I know
really annoying. Yeah. So Allerton was weird. I was just talking to someone about Allerton the other day. For those who don't know, Bert Allerton was one of those people that worked in a very swanky place doing walk around table close-up magic, but kind of the next level. And there's a book about his work, and he's published some very interesting statements on his thoughts of close-up magic, which I'm going to do in an episode. But the stuff that he would do at the table, sometimes there were puzzles. Sometimes he would do the vanishing birdcage at a table sitting between two people, which was great. But Allerton knew the power of commercial entertainment and close-up magic. Paul Rossini, someone I talk about all the time on this podcast and Magic on the Go. We have no film of him, but every review of his act. And what's interesting is whether it's a magician or a lay person loves him. Yeah. They love his personality. He had these quirks, a lot of which he nicked from Max Malini and other people, but he made it his own. And there was a book that was published after him, right? Rossini's, his work,
like Chuck Romano, who also did the new Allerton book too.
Yeah, but there was another one another one that was published shortly after he died.
That's right.
And that had a lot. It was more like a memories of his. I actually have his cups and balls. I have So Rossini did the cups and balls, and he would produce the baby chicks, right? He was famous for producing the little baby chicks. And when he couldn't get the baby chicks, he did these cups that he could produce a liquid load finish. And they're beautiful silver cups, and they're made by a famous dealer in the middle America. God, I'm over 50. They're made by this guy, and they're rare. And a set came up for auction, and I managed to get it. And what's brilliant is you can do the full cups and balls, produce the lemons, the oranges, whatever you want. At the end of it, each cup holds like 3 shots of liquor. So you can start pouring out the booze, and, that's great. And Rossini put it out with this guy. So, but I love his work, and
he died of alcoholism, so he had too many shots.
Yes, which might be the ultimate irony. It's like, perform like Rossini, die like Rossini. Yeah, I think he dropped dead in the lobby of a hotel in Chicago.
Yeah.
And
that's how I want to go.
40s. Yeah. That's not how I want to go. Just want to make that clear. I'd like to go in my 90s on stage like Tommy Cooper. That would be nice. But later, give me at least another 20 odd years. But I love that you're doing this. I love that you're putting out the professional routines. I think that's so important. When you decided like you couldn't rely on the private gigs that were coming in, especially in Toronto, certainly living here, I can see that it's very difficult to get anybody. It's a lovely place. It's a lovely city, but there's no star system in Canada. And so it's difficult to get anyone excited about anything. And I think you found that, right? You went to all the venues.
I tried to do what we're doing here on many different stages, but and at different types of magic. But I really tried. I really love going to work once or twice or 3 times a week, and getting real money and coming home, and then having the private gigs be the gravy, as opposed to the opposite, where you're feast or famine based on that one phone call that's going to make or break you. It's like similar to the acting life, where you're like waiting for the next thing. But I feel like magic is and this is, I'm not shitting on Canada, but America understands entertainment, where Canada doesn't quite get it. You can apply for a government grant and you can be supported, but it's not, people don't really pay or want to pay entertainers what they're probably worth in Canada. It's just a very, very tough road to hoe. So what I realized though in doing the Canadian thing was like, I could do it, but I really had to work hard at connecting with 2 or 3 or 4 people who would book me regularly, and just love on them and make it really a strong relationship based thing. It's the same everywhere, but I felt like Canada, I had really great success at the Toronto Film Festival. I used to do all the wrap parties for that. I used to do any of the promos. I try to get my way in there, and all throughout the 90s, that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
And there was I have a few stories from that, but also there's a couple lounges I used to work in Toronto all through college, and I used to partner with this guy called Eric von Markovic, and we used to do these parties.
Great name. Holy shit.
Well, you'll know his other name too, but he was doing a lot of mentalism, a lot of like spoon bending and moving stuff with his mind back in the early 90s when it wasn't super popular. Anyways, at the end of every gig, he would say to me, point to a girl here, point to a woman here. And I would say, I don't know. She's her right there. And I would try to find the most attractive girl in the house, in the lounge. And within 10 minutes, he would either have her number or be walking out with her. He was establishing this whole pickup artist sort of concept before it became what it became.
He's not the guy that published the book.
No, but he's the guy that the book was written about. So he's mystery.
He's mystery.
That
motherfucker. Okay, let me tell you something about that guy. Whenever I date, I love to use magic as a if the conversation is a little stiff at the beginning, magic breaks the ice, right? But also magic, if I do a magic trick or two, it tells me a lot about the girl I'm with, right? It tells me if she laughs, if she enjoys it, if she goes with the flow, then she's someone who doesn't take herself so seriously. And if she's like really kind of upset and angry that I did a magic trick, then there's a fair bit of insecurity there. I have a whole breakdown, which I'll talk about one day. But I used to use magic all the time. And then I remember when that book came out, and I would go on a date and I would bring out a magic trick, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, you read the book, huh? That's why you're peacocking right now. You're peacocking. You're like, and they used all the terms, because there's a whole chapter on using magic to pick up women. And I wasn't using it to pick up women. I was using it to kind of find out if the person I was having dinner with was a psycho. That was my main goal here, And, so thanks, Eric, for that. I appreciate that mystery. But, you know, it's very interesting that he kind of used it in that extreme. In you know, I guess magic has many, many users. But of course, as soon as the date finds out how the trick is done, that's usually incredibly disappointing. And that's when they go, oh, really? That's all it was? Okay, bye. That must have been fun to watch. Because you were also at the film festival. So you were doing magic for celebrities, which is a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, it was, I mean, I was in my 20s, so it was lots of fun. Again, as Canadians, we're always outside looking in. We're always outside looking in at America, looking in at Hollywood, looking in. We're from, you know, and maybe it's similar in the UK where you're always kind of creeping over the fence, like, ooh, it looks way more fun over there. So when celebrities have you know, we try to treat them normally, but there's definitely definitely this hype thing is like they're walking gods, I guess, especially in Canada where you rarely see them. So when and they all kind of congregate. There's a couple of things happen. One was Charlize Theron. So I did her birthday party. It was belated, but it was I think in September. But I didn't know it was Charlize Theron. This agent booked me for this thing. He says it's going to be a small group of people, maybe 12. Yeah. It's going to be in a hotel suite, blah, blah, blah. So then I went to the hotel suite. It was at the Windsor Arms Hotel in Toronto, and I was waiting in the lobby, and this assistant came down to get me and just assumed that I knew who it was and said, well, just so you know, it's her birthday, and I don't want you don't do anything scary, right? And there's nothing scary. I'm like, well, not really. I mean, it's magic. So it's frightening because I'm defying the laws of physics. But no, it's not, I'm not a shock magician. Nothing's I'm not going to light anyone on fire, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I go up there. I recognize that it's her, and she's there with her agent and a handful of other people. But I did I guess we're not supposed to talk about methods, are we? No, not really.
You can we can use code words for fool us that shit. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, a little bit. I feel like if people are listening this far in, they deserve to learn something. But yeah.
I don't ever give away too much, but I did a CT and I read her mind. And
right.
I think I told her the name of her daughter or something.
Yeah.
And she slapped me so hard, like a legitimate primal reaction. My God, and slapped me. So my face was like. Now,
there's a lot of people listening to this who are like, "You lucky boy." But I imagine at the time,
right? And I turned around and said, "How about the other side?" Didn't know.
Turn the other cheek.
But that was, so I guess I did frighten her. I went against what was the wishes of
Did she apologize for slapping you because it was such a visceral reaction, or?
Yeah. And I think she was a few drinks in too. So I think that was part of the scenario, but it was, I mean, of course I loved it. It was fantastic.
It's interesting because she goes, she used to in the 90s. I used to see her at the Magic Castle all the time. She was always there. You just never know what's going to happen. When I came to Toronto, I think it was the second day I was in Toronto. My ex-wife and I, we went to a coffee shop called Gato Nero that isn't there anymore. And, but it's a lovely little coffee shop on College Street. And we bump into this guy who's an actor, right? And I wasn't we moved here because family reasons. She wanted to bring the kids here. And so I was like, all right, well, I mean, I don't think too many actors have moved to Canada in the history of acting, but I'll give it a shot. Why not? And, if it doesn't work out, we'll move back. So, but I was a bit unsure about starting life again in another country. So we're in this coffee shop and she sees an actor that she'd worked with, and really well-known Canadian actor who's done a couple of series. And she's like, hey, how are you? And he's like, I'm all right. And she goes, what are you doing? He goes, I'm moving to America. I'm getting the fuck out of this town. And this is like my second day in Toronto. And he's like, I'm an actor. I can't get arrested. He's like, I've done all this work. I've done all these series. I cannot get arrested in this effing fucking he goes, I'm done. He said, I swear to you, this is true, Bill. He goes, I'm moving to the States. I'm going to go into Texas. And we were like, where are you going? He goes, I'm moving to a small town called Valentine. At which point my wife squeezes my arm as if to say, don't. I swear to God, I say, oh, is it a booming town? Is there a lot happening there? And he goes, no, man, Valentine's dead. Valentine's dead. Here I am. So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah. It's not about me. It's about you. So take us through all right. So basically what you've done is you've set up your own business. So you've got your magic business, but then you've set up this small, intimate theater that you own, that you run, and somewhat based a little bit on what you were doing in Toronto. You had a thing you were doing with Bobby, which was at, what was it? What was the name of that place?
We did it at Dave & Buster's.
Dave & Buster's. Yeah.
So previous to that, though, I guess it all started I always wanted to do a classy, high-end, upscale magic show in some venue that I felt comfortable and felt great in. And the first venue I did was a place called the Senator Jazz Club, which was one of the original jazz clubs in Toronto, based on a restaurant that opened, I think, in the East. But Bob Schneiderman was the owner. And I was in college. I just walked in off the street and said, who's the manager? They're like a dumb kid full of hope and dreams. And I said,
like you do, yeah.
You do. And he said, well, I'm the owner. I said, well, that's cool. Can I show you something? And I, obviously did some trick. And I just said, I would really like to do magic here. I don't know how it would work, but I feel like if there's any space here to do something, I would love to do it. Anyways, the conversation went on for about a year. And then he finally phoned me up one time and said, I think we have an idea. So they had 3 levels. There was the jazz floor in the middle level, the restaurant, like a steakhouse in the first level. And then they had this place called the Torch Lounge on the top floor. And it was really it was like an Art Deco style place, gorgeous, had like murals on the wall and very big, easy chairs. And it was basically where the jazz musicians would come and smoke in between. So they'd be smoking their cigars or their cigarettes or whatever. So it had this heavy air of like exactly what I wanted. Right. We figured out, we could seat about 30 people. And I started doing that. We did ticketed shows until for about 2 years, finally got some momentum. And then the owner says, well, I'm selling the business. It's like, how many venues have magicians closed? I think a lot of it's like, we're struggling. Maybe we should get a magician. And then the magician is the last thing.
Yeah. It's the death knell. It's fear not for who the bell tolls. It tolls for a magician.
But I ever since that time where I had this, what I thought was a great venue and a great thing and a great place for magic. I was always a big admirer of Eugene, who also was a great admirer of Bert Allerton. And
Eugene Berger, who was a great close-up magician. I mean, he always presented it in such a classy way, right? I mean, he made it special. It wasn't just somebody interrupting your conversation.
Right. And his thing was always do magic in the best venues possible. He used to do magic at Biggs. Anyways, so the concept was always in my head. It's always my passion to continue to do that. So he sold that place. I did some sort of one-off places, I guess, event type shows in different venues during that time period. I think it was 2015-16 that we got serious and started to work on the green card process, to apply for the green card, apply for the visa. And eventually that happened. So 2017 is when we moved here.
Now here is St. Augustine, right?
Florida. So let me rewind and tell you about that. About 15 years ago, we started vacationing here because someone said, we took our kids to Disney and they're like, you should go to this little artsy town called St. Augustine. It's really cute. You'll see the ocean because it's on the ocean side, the Atlantic side. And so one of the times we took the kids down to Disney, we popped over and went here and fell in love with it. It's a Spanish settlement. It's gorgeous architecture. The place is fantastic. And I just had this vision that we could do something here that would be, it's not a big city. It's a very small town. I think it's about 16,000 people, but on a weekend, we get about 100,000 tourists. So there's that market is huge here. And that was the vision, was like, well, let's open our own space and do our own. And then we did that. We rented we rented a space in a building. It was an old cigar factory. It was a super cool space. And we started doing a build out. We got permits to put in, plumbing and stuff so that we were going to have a champagne bar and then the show and then, create like a really classy upscale magic venue. And then we were about to open in March of 2020, and then the pandemic hit. And then we waited that out and, waited to the lease we can't keep paying rent on something we can never open. So then we shut that down.
But when you went to St. Augustine and when you'd chosen St. Augustine because of the tourism, right? Because you saw that there was a tourist audience? Tourist audience,
and the lifestyle was just what we wanted. We're 3 blocks from the ocean. Yeah. We live right by a state park that's one of the largest state parks on the ocean. It's just a really gorgeous spot. There's so much to do. There's world-class dining. It's really a gorgeous, and it's a kind of for people traveling from Miami to Savannah or from New York down to, it's one of the places that a lot of people stop at because it's just such a great place to visit. So
you saw that it was a potential for, that there was, because there's 2 things, right? There's like finding the right place, like what's the tourism, what's the potential for a regular audience and promotion, does Yelp, do all of these things work? And then there's finding the right venue, which is always the biggest problem. So you had a venue, it got screwed up. Now the place you're in is not the same place, right?
Not the same place. No. So we got it's about to open. We took photos, I took video, and then when we pulled up stakes and we moved all this stuff into storage because we're like, well, we'll just have to wait this out and see what happens. So, I went into a deep depression for a few months and then realized, what do I want? I want to perform, and I want to perform in a great venue, but I don't need to own the venue. I don't need to be a bar manager and worry about figuring out staffing and all this other nonsense. Yeah. So what do I want to do? I want to perform. So then I just, re-envisioned re-edited my vision so that I realized, let's just find, and I had a short list of like 3 places. I said, well, this place I would do magic in, this place I would do magic in, this place I would do magic in. And I approached the first place, my first pick, and this gorgeous hotel built in the late 1800s in sort of a Spanish Moor design. It's just gorgeous inside and out. But never heard back. And I actually put together a leather-bound photo album presentation of what the whole evening would be. Because it's not just a magic show. It would be a VIP, close-up experience, and then go to a show and then have a meet and greet. So it was a full evening entertainment. So it'd be like a 2-hour experience. Yeah. Of not just magic, but magic, magic.
It's a whole evening. Yeah. It makes it special. Yeah.
It's a date night. It's a celebration night. So that was the concept. And I sent him all, because we have these beautiful images of this place that we never opened. So that was kind of the blessing in disguise, expensive disguise. But then out of the blue, and we already got going on another project because I never heard back from them. Started going in another direction with another venue. But then out of the blue, the owner of this hotel called me, and I didn't do the whole thing where you talk to the manager and talk to the food and beverage person. No, I just went straight to the owner, he was a millionaire and has 18 hotels all over the world. So I just went
the way to do it, man. I'm telling you, you've got to cut line because everyone's concerned about their job. I went to the Royal York, and I'm sure you tried to pitch to the Royal York in Toronto at one point. And I spoke to the person in charge of the bookings, whatever. And they got back to me and I was like, listen, your rooms are not all being used all the time. I'm like, we can set up in an intimate room. We can make something really special for the guests. The usual pitch, right? They got back to me. No, we love this idea. Okay. So room rental is $15,000 a night. And I'm like, you don't understand what I'm trying to sell. Literally I said, we can stream it. We can do live from New York. It could be a whole thing. Anyway, they didn't get it. Having the owner come to you. Yeah. Is the gift. Continue, because how did he know about you though?
He didn't know about me at all. My thing was so my first success was at that jazz club back in 2002. And the reason I had success with it was that he basically told the management, this guy's coming in, he's going to take Thursday nights up in the lounge, make sure we have a server up there, make sure we have a runner for bar drinks. Like, he told them what was going to happen. I didn't have to fight to make it happen. And I guess this was the whole, so when he captured the vision that I sent him, he loved it. And he said, this sounds like an amazing experience. How do we make it happen? And that was the, and then from that point, it took about months to go through all the crazy red tape of cause we wanted to outfit the room. We put $16,000 worth of drapes. We put a $10,000 door on an archway that didn't have a door. We put in a lighting system. We put in sound. So we invested a lot of money. Yeah. And I, on purpose, I said, I want to make this investment. You don't need to worry about it. This is what I need to do to make this the best it's going to be. And he was excited.
And it also proves to him that you're serious about what you're doing, right? And it stops them renting the room out. Like I had a place in LA for a while, and they would call me and go, so we got a bar mitzvah coming in tonight. And I'm like, what do you mean? I sold tickets. What are you talking about? This is dedicated to your room. Did you put a special entrance in? Anyway, continue, because I'm interested to know kind of like the journey of the audience member when they show up.
When you usually go to a magic show, it's like you go in, you get your ticket, you sit in your seat, you eat some popcorn, and then the guy comes out and does the show. Most shows are too long, in my opinion. They're all too long. There's a threshold for lay people's absorption of magic.
Yeah.
I think I figured it out.
What do you think it is?
I think you got to keep them awake. So you got to.
1 second. I'm going to write down a number. Okay. Because I know what everyone's doing these days and what everyone's asking of magicians.
Should I get
and I see people squirming, unable to, because they want to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Here we go. Hang on a minute. We're talking about just the show, right? Not the experience.
No, I'm talking, the experience is what makes it work. So it's not sitting in a chair for an hour and a half.
Right. So, yeah.
You're writing down.
Okay. Hang on. That's the full experience. And then the show is actually that long. Okay. All right. What's your,
How long's the show?
yeah.
The actual sit down show is 50 minutes, 50.
Okay. And how long's the experience?
2 hours.
Okay. So I got 90-minute experience, 55-minute show. So I'm close, but I guess 90, you want people to feel like they're getting their money's worth. That's the key, right?
The deal we have with part of the contract that we have with the hotel is that everyone gets a complimentary drink paid for by me. So we made that a magical experience. So when you check in with the host, there's I'm not going to give away secrets, but gold coins appear in a little box, and they take those gold coins, and each guest gets a gold coin. They take the gold coin that pays for their first drink, and then they can also buy more drinks afterwards. But so that's in a VIP, that's, stanchions, velvet rope VIP area, and they're like standing cocktail style. So as soon as people check in and they get their order, I suddenly appear and I do tableside magic at each person's table. And that's where I get really personal with people I'm performing for. So I already know that this couple, because Rebecca will tell me, this couple is celebrating their anniversary. So as soon as I come out, I'm like, happy anniversary. And then I say, you have to take an anniversary card. So then they take out a card. I want you to put your names on the card. And I do my card and wallet or whatever. And so then now they have a souvenir that they go home with. Somebody else is celebrating a birthday. So then I do the birthday trick for them. And then so it's really intimately and personally entertaining the guests.
So right at the very beginning, they've got their drink and you're just doing a little bit. You're just saying hello and just kind of a little bit.
I would say people check in at 6. I appear about 6:05 and I'm there till about 6:20, but I hit up all the tables. I'm doing very short, quick effects, but they're getting a really good taste. And I just said, this is just a teaser. We're going to have lots more fun in a minute. I'm going to be back out here doing some magic in a moment. So that I then disappear. Rebecca then walks around with a large black envelope and a gold pen, and they all sign this envelope. So saying that this is the mystery envelope. We're going to be opening this at the end of so the whole concept behind the whole VIP sort of cocktail reception is that something happening the entire time. There's never a dead spot or a time where you're like, people are checking their watches. It's like that all is happening. And then about 6:35, 6:40, Rebecca then she puts on some lights and I come back out to the VIP, but I stand so everyone can see me. So the tables are kind of like in a semicircle, cocktail tables. They're standing and I stand and perform about a 10-minute piece. I do like a multiple selection routine and again, involving as many people as possible, but they're having that experience together.
So those who aren't magicians, let me just say what a multiple selection routine is. It's not going out with mystery and bringing home a few girls at the one time. Although I do want to get back to that and ask you what the trick was, what was his most success, but we'll get back to that in a minute. But a multiple selection routine is we have a bunch of people choose playing cards and then they shuffle them. And finding one card is hard enough. Finding 8 and 10 after they've shuffled them back is a very difficult thing as any magician. And it's kind of dangerous because if you screw up one, then you're gone with the rest. So that's a nice way to step up the opening and put yourself on the line at the very beginning. But it's good. Yep. You're making everyone an audience. I get that. You're making them a cohesive group. All right. Okay, cool. Continue.
So before we move on to the next part, the whole vibe is a house party vibe. You're in my house and we're drinking, we're having a great time. And that's at the end of the night, everyone's connected. And I know, this has been said ad nauseum, but magic is really such a great, because everyone's experiencing it at the same time and everyone's reacting to this. They have something to talk about. Did you see that thing? That was great. And strangers become friends. And I really believe that. It really is a point.
Absolutely.
And I treat them like friends. I don't treat them like, here's my audience and I'm going to perform for you. No, it's like, I can't believe you're still here. Unbelievable.
I love that you're out there from the word go, that you're not like hiding behind a curtain, ready to do your come out and be the star. And then, no, I love that. It says you're basically Rick. This is Rick's Cafe and you're Humphrey Bogart of magic, essentially, is what we're talking about. Yeah.
And breaking down any kind of wall that they may even have in their mind. As soon as you do that, you're like, well, the fourth wall doesn't exist because you're literally there, high-fiving them for 25th anniversary. Good for you.
Amazing.
So anyways, do magic then, do that. And then, I finish with Stabbed and Shot. I cheers them with the shot glass. Thank you for coming to the Magic Hideaway. Listen carefully. Rebecca's going to call your group name out and then she's going to seat you. While she's doing that, I'm going to go put some things in my sleeves and I'll meet you there in a few minutes. So then I disappear. Right. They all seated, and while they're getting seated, I'm switching out things out of my pockets and packing more pocket shit in.
Yeah. And because pocket management is the biggest problem with any magician if you're doing a long show. And I talk about this a lot. It's like, I actually had to have a situation in my show where I come up with reasons for changing my jackets.
Yes.
Because you have to, because otherwise you end up with a coat that makes you look like you're like Mr. Lumpy the Clown or something. That guy that produces the bananas. I don't know if you ever saw that guy. Just bananas out of his coat for like 10 minutes. Anyway, yeah. All right. So you're getting ready to do the next part of the show. How are you sorry to interrupt, but how are you? The quick trick, hello, 10-minute thing, bring them as an audience, get them excited to come in. How are you differentiating what they've already seen with the show that you're about to do? Like, how do you make it feel different than what they've already seen you do?
I think it's the type of effects, but I also feel like it's kind of like lay people in their hierarchy in their mind. Card tricks are probably the lowest. What did the magician do? I don't know. He did some card tricks. That's a layperson's.
Very true. It's so true.
I kind of get the card tricks out of the way at the beginning. So they're seeing, I mean, I do some card effects in the main show too, but they are getting the close-up card magic that we want to show them,
Right.
And so I know that they, in their minds, like, well, that's a card trick. So then when I come out and I'm doing my regular show, when I'm introduced, I have the intro and I walk back into the room. First of all, they already know me because we've already chatted. I already know their first names, and I'm really good at repeating first names for an hour and a half.
That's such a skill.
Yes.
I think it can definitely be learned. I know that this as someone who has to learn a shit ton of dialogue on a regular basis when I'm acting, there's that short-term memory thing, which is good. I've seen people be able to learn a lot of information about an audience, and it's incredibly powerful. Do you use a mnemonic to learn people's names, or you just kind of find?
I don't. So I don't know how it works, and I don't want to jinx it. What I do, for me, it's me being so comfortable with my material and with the environment. I know, like, that comfort level allows me to remember. I actually don't know. If I'm nervous, so if I'm working out new material, I'm not remember anything else than what that trick is. I'm not remembering anybody's name or face.
We used to have that happen on Crossing Jordan when I was doing the show. We'd have guest stars come in, and I would notice that if we did a scene and they forgot their lines, and then it would be like, we were really easygoing cast. We'd be like, oh, no worries, we'll just do it again. Do you want to just call for the line? Whatever you want to do. And the person would start to panic. And I think that when you're nervous, when you panic, I think the body releases that fight and flight chemical. And I think that stops the brain from remembering anything, because all you notice, you just got to get the hell out of there. And I have a feeling that, so when I would get that way, and I have got that way when I'm filming, especially if I'm doing a scene with someone who's really big, and I don't want to be the one that sucks. Yes. I like, there's a whole meditation thing I have to do to stop the pulse, the heart rate, the blood pressure, and that whole thing. So that's really smart. But I think for anyone who's listening, even those who are listening, if you're not a magician, learning to remember people's names, so that when you're talking to someone and they've been talking to you for 20 minutes at a business conference, you don't go like, it's been great chatting with you, Charlie. You don't want to be seen. Look, we all got those techniques where you're like, oh, and you cover your eyes for a second so you can see their name. But knowing the name is half a business, I think. So that's
yeah. Some nights are better than others. Some nights,
of course,
but I try to make it a point, because I just continually use their names. I'm continually trying to use their names, and that's what helps me to remember is that. And I just, for the multiple selection routine, I know Doc Eason, that's part of his thing is that when he does this multiple selection, he's naming the person and pulling out their card. I don't do that because it breaks up the momentum, but I do like being able to, even if I know 5 people's names from that group throughout the thing, it feels like I know everybody. Isn't that right? I'll tell
you a thing that I've started doing, which I think is good for cohesiveness for an audience, is first spectator that I go into the audience and I ask someone if they stand up and I'm like, what's your name? Let's say their name's Stanley. I'm like, all right, everyone say, hello, Stanley. And everyone says, hello, Stanley. So every single person I get up from the audience, I'm like, what's your name? Everyone say, hello, John. Hello, John. Helps me remember, because now I've said it 2 or 3 times. but the audience, I don't know, it's kind of puts everyone together, if that makes any sense. It's kind of, and it just makes it more of a party. But all right, so you come out there. So, by the way, your video, you say you play a video before you come out. This is just like a greatest hits, Bill Abbott.
No video. No, it's just a voiceover, telling them how wonderful I am. And then music, I come out. But, and right away, I do a vanishing bottle right off the top. It's something I might actually put together as a download, but it's my champagne opener. So I come out and I say,
we're going to stop it right there because this is a two-parter and this conversation went on for over 2 hours. I've got to edit down the next half. But I hope you see that there's a lot of great information there. Thank you to Bill. Please check out his site, BAM, Bill Abbott Magic. You know what? While you're online looking at Magic on the Go, you can get another tab for Bill Abbott Magic and you can see the kind of stuff that he sells. It's all professional grade magic. It's top notch. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. And I'll see you on the inside. As always, Magicians Only is sponsored by Magic on the Go. The only place to go to learn magic is Magic on the Go. You know what I'm saying. Look, magiconthego.com. Check it out.